Okay, so today I'm gonna talk about triggers and everything else, because something I see all the time is people making fun of how on Tumblr it's like triggered, and they'll oftentimes comment things like hashtag triggered or like, oh, blah blah blah, to mock SJWs on Tumblr. Now, the thing is though, triggers and being triggered is an actual medical term. It's not something that like Tumblr people made up or anything. It's actually used by doctors and scientists and all this other crap to describe an actual medical phenomenon. It's not like, some ridiculous bullshit. It's so there's most oftentimes it's associated with PTSD, something that triggers them, suffer PTSD, but it also can be used in other things, like for example, there are asthmatic triggers, and there are also autistic triggers. But like for asthmatic triggers, for example, like I have asthma, and my asthmatic triggers are perfume, dust, and mold. So when I inhale these things, it causes me to have an asthma attack, or at the very least it makes it harder to breathe. And then autistic triggers are things that cause an autistic person to suffer a meltdown or a shutdown. So oftentimes it's things like being overstimulated or emotionally overwhelmed, because they oftentimes have hyperempathy and all sorts of stuff like that. But the most common way it's used, and by the way, like, these three things aren't the only ways that triggered is used. It's just the ones I could think of. But PTSD triggers are things that cause a sufferer of PTSD to, relive or re-experience their trauma in some way, shape, or form, whether it be through a flashback where they are at the very least partially actually re-experiencing the trauma. And also, contrary to a common belief, like when you're having a flashback, most of the time, there are some rare cases, but most of the time you are aware of what's going on around you still. It's just that at least one of your senses is giving you additional stimuli, which is, what you experienced during the trauma. And it can be any sense, not just like sight and sound like they do in movies and TV shows. Like, for example, the one that almost always affects me is my sense of touch. So when I'm having a flashback, I'm actually physically feeling the things that happened. Like, for example, one of the ones I have the most often is strangulation, and I actually feel like there's hands on my neck, and I actually have a hard time breathing and things like this. So yeah, so that's a flashback, and sometimes it does get, in some people, except this is actually rare, you are so absorbed inside your flashback that you can't you can't differentiate between it and reality. But again, that's actually rare. But anyways, and then also other reactions, it's like just the emotional state that you had during your trauma. So it elicits feelings of anxiety or panic, even to the level of having a panic attack and things like that, or at the very least makes you're feeling extremely unsafe and you feel like you need to hide or whatever. Like I've ended up hiding, one time I was hiding in a little forested area for like 2 hours in the middle of the night because it happened while I was out, and that's just how strong it gets. And then also you might also might end up doing something or experience emotions that were brought up as defensive mechanisms. So you end up having an angry or aggressive outburst because that was the best way to survive your initial trauma. Now, the thing is that PTSD is a real illness, as you might know, and it actually affects you so severely that your brain is permanently altered. It can even see it in brain scans and shit like that. So it's an actual fucking thing, and like whatever. And I'm sure many of you know it's a thing because of veterans and like soldiers. But they aren't the only ones to suffer from PTSD, because the thing is that it's post-traumatic stress disorder, not post-war stress disorder or some shit like that. All you need to have PTSD is to have a trauma happen to you, and that's it. It could be like one trauma, but that's all you need. And the thing is that before you start like thinking that I'm making this up for attention or anything else, I've actually been diagnosed by psychiatrists. I'm on medicine to help with symptoms of it, like I'm on an anti-anxiety for it. I'm on sleeping medication because my insomnia is so bad. And insomnia is one of the most common symptoms of PTSD. My insomnia is so bad that I ended up in the ER once because of sleep deprivation. So I'm not making this shit up, and I do get flashbacks and all this other stuff. I have like every fucking symptom. And because I never went to war, I have PTSD from severe child abuse. So, and also some other traumas that happened later in life, but still, that's the main one. So yeah, like, you can get it from fucking anything. And the thing is that as someone who actually has PTSD, I always end up being wary when using the term triggered because of how much people make fun of it. And I'm talking like, I see people making, jokes about it and whatever, like every day, like multiple times a day. But you want to know what? I almost never see anyone using it incorrectly. Like, on Tumblr, I go on Tumblr a lot, and I've never seen anyone on Tumblr using it incorrectly, I don't think. And like, it's the only thing I can think of that you might be looking at is when people give trigger warnings. And sorry, but like, okay, I have seen a few posts actually that are like snapshots, but I haven't actually seen the posts themselves, where people might have been like overreacting a bit. But I remember there was this one thing, a picture of a pomegranate, and someone's like, you should trigger warning that gore. But here's the thing about trigger warnings, is that why do you dislike them so much? Because the thing is that they aren't stopping you from enjoying your thing. They're just allowing, people with PTSD to be able to, navigate the world. Because the thing is that getting triggered, you gotta, like, your whole fucking day stops for a while, and it can, like, the emotions that happen afterwards can last for hours, can last for the rest of the fucking day, it can last for a few days even, depending on how bad the reaction it elicited was. So, like, having that little thing saying, hey, yo, this post or this video or whatever includes stuff involving XYZ, and then you're like, oh, okay, you know what, I'm not gonna read that, I'm not gonna watch that, I'm not gonna whatever, because that's gonna trigger me, and I don't want to have to deal with a flashback or a panic attack or whatever the hell else right now, because, no, I just want some, casual crap. Or sometimes people go on the internet because they're feeling all anxious and everything else, and they need something to distract themselves. So if you're doing that and you're already feeling really anxious and then you get triggered, like, it's fucking terrible. So, why are you hating on this shit? And the biggest thing too is that people make fun of trigger warnings online, but they don't say a goddamn thing when, before the movies, there are trigger warnings given. Every single fucking movie has that shit. What am I talking about? Viewer discretion is advised. Sound familiar? They're talking about, like, this contains XYZ. Your discretion is advised. That's a trigger warning. That is exactly what that is. So oftentimes when it's online, like, trigger warning for rape, trigger warning for gore, trigger warning for violence, blah blah blah. So people can be like, oh, yo, not cool, I'm gonna avoid that. And even ones like they might seem kind of silly to you, like, and also there's content warnings. That's different. That's saying, like, yo, there's this thing, it's not necessarily triggering, but like someone might not like it as much, so I'm just gonna say, yo, it's in there. And most of the time on Tumblr, they just put it in the tags, and then you can get, like, this app, or this extension or whatever, so that blocks any posts containing that tag, and you're good to go. And, so it's not like it's, and if you don't have any issues with triggers, it's like, having trigger warnings on shit isn't negatively affecting you in any way. It's not for you. It's like, getting pissed off that there are ramps in front of buildings because you can walk. Like, it's not for you, it's for the people who need it. So it's making things more accessible for them. Because the thing is that PTSD is a disability. It's a mental illness, but it's a mental disability as well, because the thing is that PTSD sometimes can make it so that I can't leave my room, or at the very least I can't leave my house. It makes it so that I can't sleep, so that affects my ability to do things, because a lack of sleep has a severe detrimental effects, and they take effect quickly. And my PTSD causes a bunch of psychosomatic symptoms, psychosomatic being physical symptoms caused by a mental disorder. So I have, because stress fucks your body up. Like, I have issues like ulcers, IBS, acid reflux, migraines, joint pain, back pain, like tense muscles in my neck that gets really bad, and to the point where I can't even like do anything, and all this other crap. So I mean, those are, you know, physically disabling, because I mean, it fucking interrupts your whole fucking day just trying to deal with this shit. And so, like, it's just making the world a little bit more accessible for you, you know? So, for sufferers. And, like, why are you mad at us just making the world more navigationable? That's not a word. Anyways, so, the video is really long. I didn't intend for that. Oh, that always happens with me. So, thanks for watching.